get the information submitted so that we have it when we get there.
Yeah, I got...
And they just emailed and said they'll have it done by Friday, so we're waiting. It'll be a few days after that till they can actually start moving dirt, provided they get the actual technical approval.
Right.
They have everything else ready to go to IDEM, and that is simply a submittal. The way the Rule 5 works, you submit it, you got to call them and notify them after you've submitted it that you're ready to start work. Then 48 hours you can start work. So that one is moving. It seems to be in their court.
So that one's moving, the erosion control's moving, the NDOT permit, that's being taken care of. We're just waiting on this one from Williams Creek.
Right.
If you'd communicate with me tomorrow and let me know. If you don't get a hold of anyone, I'm going to go to all kinds of extremes to try to get a hold of somebody if you don't.
I will. I got some names too from our office of some people who deal with these on a far more regular basis than I do. And I was hoping to hear back from one of them today, and I didn't. So I'm going to call somebody in the morning.
Williams Creek?
I don't know, I think it's just this project.
So, yeah, I've dealt with Williams Creek a few times in the past, and they've always seemed responsive.
Okay.
We actually had a call into one of the owners there from our office, someone from Jim, the project manager in our office, and
Jim Gerard.
And I have not heard what his result of his contact was, because I've been up here all day and he's been somewhere else all day. So.
All right.
Other than that, things seem to be moving along, and we've got some metals started to roll in,
Okay, Jeremy, you want to come on up here while Bill's still here?
Yeah.
And we'll discuss the quotes that we have for the environmental. Jeremy has gotten 2 quotes for removal and disposal of the asbestos-containing materials as specified in the report provided for the Loshi building. And you got prices from EMS, which is Environmental Management Specialist, and also from Barton Environmental Consulting. The 2 quotes, hold on, I got to add this one up.
Basically, all he's adding is an original design of the sewer. That sewer would be bored around the Loshi property to kind of make the connection to, because in the design portion, we was not sure if we would get possession of that property or not. Now that we do have possession of it, we have secured the property. It really makes sense to remove that building, open cut that instead of boring and tying that sewer back in. It takes a lot of unnecessary bends and angles and stuff out of that sewer, which long term that's what you want. So when Nate was here, he had been dealing with Barton Environmental on some of those properties and just getting some testing and stuff done. I was in contact with Barton after Tim had closed on the property to do the assessments, and that's where we're at today with the proposal for demolition and then the environmental remediation.
Barton's quote was $11,100, and Environmental Management Specialist's quote was $9,320, and we've used them before and we have good luck with them, and that's who I think the Board of Works needs to. Bill, you'd be so moved to make a motion to use EMS for this?
Make a motion to use EMS.
Second.
Just note there's really no real big environmental problems. There's just some mastic on the floor and stuff that needs scraped up and some fiberboard on the walls, just little things.
Right.
Removal of that building, is that something you and your crew tackle?
That's what we're going to discuss here also.
That's next.
Sorry.
Okay, so all in favor? Aye. Okay, so Phyllis, you've got a copy of that already, right? Okay, so that's that. Then the next thing is the change order so that we could have Fleming tear it down is what I would prefer to do. That's a little bit of a big job for Jeremy's guys, and may not have the equipment, everything needed.
The actual change order from the open cut to the bore is a $100,000 change order. When you add up the quote from Fleming and the environmental remediation, it comes to just a couple dollars over $49,000. So you're still on the right side of the whole project with the $100,000 change order. So
Yeah.
basically, you're moving from 100 to 50 at this point without knowing what we're going to get into downstream.
Right.
And by doing this by way of a change order, we can just, the contractor who's doing our job, if they want to, or they could sub it out, but Fleming will do it, will just take the building down for us. And haul it off and all that, yeah. Otherwise, if we didn't do it by way of change order, then we'd have to go through the bid process and slow everything down. And we know that Greg has treated us right, so.
That could also cause problems with having another contractor coming in with
Right.
delays in the project,
Right.
and not
Now you're on their timeline.
doing
Right.
things possibly as what would really need to be done.
Yeah, some of you were on council when we took bids across the street for Dwayne's Sweeper Shop, but sometimes you get the bids and they're not what they're cracked up to be. So,
The Fleming tearing it down, does he have to have the environment and stuff done?
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, that's it.
that would have to be done regardless.
And we'll get the final, we have to review the whole thing and get the whole final details on the change order. There's numbers to put to that yet, that we're still working out, so, for a final
So is the
authorization.
change order a Board of Works decision, or is that council?
Works is done,
What's that?
Board of Works
Yeah.
is done, it's done.
So, I've been advised that a change order like this would be a Board of Works decision. Before Bill entertains a motion, do any of the council members want to weigh in on this or anything, or y'all okay with it?
Makes sense.
Yeah. Bill?
So moved, make a motion to go with the change order.
Well, the change order would include Fleming doing the demolition and then doing an open cut rather than the bore. And I would second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed the same. We're good to go there. So that's that. Loshi property.
We'll get the details written up and then figure it out. Yes, good.
Bill, unless you have anything else, I think that's all we had as far as the sewer project stuff goes tonight.
So do we have a document for this change order?
Oh, yeah, they've got to put it together.
There, okay.
Yeah, we have to put details on the actual numbers on that.
Now, this is just
Together, so
authorizing to proceed with the change
proceed with,
order.
with that change, because that's actually probably the big change. I think at this time, unless there's anything else you have that you want me to go over with it,
Well,
details.
as far as the north end, as I think council knows, we had a misinterpretation of a reading from the surveyor,
Right.
and the elevation was off, so that has given us a little delay, although, like we said, we couldn't do any of this anyhow without the permits. But our job will still not involve going beyond the Zwick property, but we are going to start about 90 feet to the north of where we had planned on starting because of this elevation FUPA. And as Bill, I was kind of, excuse my language, hell-bent on finding out who is at fault and seeing who's going to pay for it, blah, blah, blah. But Bill says it's a very easy, common mistake.
It's not common, it's easily made. It's one you don't want to make.
It would have been discovered anyhow. I mean, it would have had to happen.
Had this issue, had it been discovered initially, the 90 feet would have been in the project.
Right.
We would have had to go to this one manhole north to make the pipeline work with the elevations that we have to meet the minimum requirements. So, we're working, the design engineer, which is Clark Dietz, has worked out a plan, and we're going through those, and the contractors got them, and I got them Friday, so we're moving on that. That could have been a delay, but with the permits, it's not as significant an issue. So, and the one right now that, I mean, really the one right now that's preventing anything from moving forward is the erosion control, because there are
Right.
options once they have that, if they need to get moving, that can be done. It's not the preferred way of going about it, but
And that's Greg Fleming putting in for that. Greg seems to think he may have that by the end of this week, early next week.
I think early next week is probably the likelihood, so it'll probably be, till they get it, submit back to IDEM and make the 48 hours, it'll probably be the following week till they actually start.
Okay. All right, just be in touch with me on the Williams Creek
Will.
situation, and
Yeah, I'm gonna make calls and try to find out, and try to understand this process, because it's an Army Corps thing, and every time I've dealt with them, you get something in writing stating you're good to go. The Army Corps permit is not one where you want to say, guess and say, go ahead, and then turn around and be wrong. So, we're working on that, and like I said, I've been calling pretty much every day, emailing every day to get the answers. That's why I'm frustrated with not having,
Right.
being able to give you more info or hand you a permit.
okay. Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
Careful going home. Jeremy, you can stay put. We'll
Okay.
just go into the next thing. The depot. Cam sent an email out, Jeremy and myself and Tim, I think, and I'm not sure who all. Can we please place on either the Board of Works or Council agenda some time to discuss the rental of the depot? I know Phyllis has been communicating insurance requirements with my mother, but I think we need to provide some clear direction moving forward, such as who will own it, the city or the parks? Who will manage it, the city or the parks? Will it be subject to the same requirements as renting a parks facility? If so, what will the city insurance cover, and what do renters need to secure it? So, Tim, first of all, you checked on some insurance issues of it.
Yeah, Phyllis had talked to our insurance carrier previously, and they recommended that you have $1 million coverage, that the city be named as an additional insured, and that they also include coverage if there's alcohol served. And that can be either done through a rider to your homeowner policy, or it can be a special event premium paid. Special event premium is going to be pretty expensive. It could be around $300 just for one day or more. But if you have homeowners insurance, from what I understand, that is something that you can obtain through your homeowner policy. So as long as somebody within an organization is willing to put their name on the line as the tenant on behalf of the organization, and then use that person's homeowner policy to get the coverage that we require, then we should be good to go. The city's insurance carrier would be kind of secondary coverage. So if you had a major loss arising from the use of the depot, the person who's using the facility's insurance carrier would be primary coverage, and then the city would be secondary. From what I understand, these riders, if you're going to get a rider provision, even if you don't have $1 million coverage, you can probably bump up your current coverage for about $30 a year. And if you wanted to cancel it after a month, you'd probably get a refund back and probably pay $3 or $4 for the coverage for a month's time.
This is on your personal
This
policy?
is on your personal policy. But the city should require a certificate of insurance for the policy limits showing that coverage applies both to alcohol use as well as liability, and that the city is named as an additional insured under that coverage.
So I don't really know if we can make any decisions this evening about who will own it,
Well,
the city or the parks.
ordinance-wise, you got ordinance for no alcoholic beverages in the parks, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
What would you rather do with
the city, I mean, if you want
Well,
to
you'd have to change your policy for parks, because at one time we discussed
do the same thing for the Riverside.
Exactly.
Right. I think that's,
That's the better approach, because
Okay.
I think you could actually utilize the facility over Riverside if you had this type of...
one that addresses the park board.
Now, approximately a year, a little bit longer than that ago, we had this conversation at a park board meeting. Park board is in position or okay with taking over the rental of that property. I know,
The depot.
yeah, now, if you want us to take possession or just maintenance, we're already mowing and stuff, so it's not a real big issue. You know, that's entirely up to you guys, but how we're set up now, how we rent the parks, is if you're interested in renting that facility, you go out and talk to Ryan Green. Ryan has a contract for all the other rentals. You know, you can review a contract that we already have, or you can have a special contract for the depot. That's more of the lines of what Cam's mom was kind of looking at, was, you know, having more of a stringent rental contract for that property with the money that's been put into there. That's entirely up to you guys, but the park board is
But I think that-
okay with.
Running it through the parks as far as managing makes total sense. I mean,
Right.
we don't have, no one in here right now is handling any kind of rentals or anything, so.
Yeah. You would just have to have some kind of a, Phyllis knows with a lot of park funding, you know, you're going to have some kind of money set aside or something that you can pull out of periodically if something does happen with the building. Because we're not overly blessed on funding through the Parks Department due to tax caps and falling revenue and stuff over the last 4 or 5 years. You know, we've taken a pretty good hit.
Tim, is there a sensible answer as to who should own it, city or the park department? Or does it not matter?
I don't know. I mean, it matters in the sense of what pot you pull money out of for maintenance and repairs, but we've got properties that are owned by the park department, and we've got properties that are owned by the city proper, so...
You know,
it's really-
does it make sense that the Parks Department owns it, and if there's something major happens, you pull it out of CCI or something, or seed it, or somewhere?
Which if the city owned it, it would still be the same way, it would have to fall out of, you know.
I just like the Ryan Green's already managing other things, manage that too.
Yeah, but as far as ownership is what we're talking about.
Could you do a co-ownership with the Parks Department managing it?
would that make it, well,
In other words,
co-ownership could make things messy
would it?
at some point in the
Well, if you
future.
have co-ownership, then the question is who makes approval
Yeah.
of whatever needs to be done, then you gotta
Well-
go before both. But I'm saying, the Parks Department at that point could manage it. Yeah, I mean, I don't see any problem with the city retaining ownership and the Park Department managing. Right,
Who's going to make the decision on, is the council going to make the decision if you're going to lease it for, and have alcohol at there for a reception or whatever? Is that a city decision, or if we move this over to the Parks
If
Department,
it's gonna
be their board?
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Now, if you have because I happen to look at this on another matter, but there's nothing in the city ordinance, in the code of ordinances, that restricts alcohol use other than in park properties. The only restriction is, in our code, is found in the park section. Now, if you want to restrict it, then that probably should be added citywide. If you want to do away with it, then you should take it out of the park. So,
And the reason Tim happened to look into that was from our department head meeting this morning. We discussed, for example, this past week at the Bulldogs concert, you know, if someone shows up, sits down in their lawn chairs and has a little six-pack cooler and gets out a couple of cold beers, is that an issue?
What was the feeling of the department heads?
Nobody really seemed against it. The only issue I could see, personally, that I could see is that the street's a city street, but the courthouse lawn is not ours. And that could probably somehow be rectified if we flip-flopped the layout of everything so that people really wouldn't sit in the courthouse lawn. I don't know if you could put the band up in the courthouse and everybody else out, fan them out the other way.
On the street?
Yeah, that would be one way of keeping people up the...
That's how we did it for the first concert.
Right.
Right. They had a larger crowd this time, and they wanted to face it. And the only reason why is because it's going into the evening. We didn't want to face the music towards town. The echoes and stuff like that, all those buildings were, I mean, it would have probably been fine. They had pretty good sound people.
Yeah, I don't know what that would be like if the band was up on the curb of the courthouse and faced that. I mean, that's not very far before it's going to go bouncing off that wall.
Yeah, but they could control that, some type of sound system too.
So anyhow, I mean, I'm open to whatever. I don't know, this morning, didn't you think there wasn't any reason?
I think there was some concern about liability.
Right.
That was certainly expressed and discussed. The issue is, if you bring your own, certainly you're responsible for yourself and you pass it out. But having said that, if it's a city-sponsored event, somebody gets hurt, we'll get sucked into it.
Yep.
Whether we have liability or not, we end up getting into it because somebody's going to claim that we allowed it.
Joe Blow might bring his own beer, and he might drink 2 or 3 of them, but then if he gets up and stumbles on the street or sidewalk or somewhere and goes down, then now we're in on it.
Yeah,
But
how does Fort Wayne do
Yeah.
with River, with the...
Well,
I mean-
Fort Wayne serves beer. We're not talking about serving.
We're not
We
serving,
don't want
we're
to
not-
do that. There's one positive thing is with this, after talking with Phyllis, if we just put on a show and we don't serve alcohol, it's $75 for the whole summer, isn't it? If we decide we're going to sell alcohol, which we don't want to do, that's $450 per incidence.
Per
If
event.
a person was to walk out of a local bar and walk across the curb and fall down while we're having the show, is that really our problem?
It isn't, in my opinion, but we're going to get joined in the suit.
Point
But that's
being,
true with anything that would happen.
Yeah, that is.
I agree.
It's true when it
I
happens.
agree.
You know, and we're not talking about minors, we're talking
Right.
about adults.
I think the key really is, you know, if people are carrying a case of beer and plopping it down out in the front, that's one thing. If you're carrying a beer or an alcoholic drink in a cup or
That's
something
right.
else, where it's not, you know, just in somebody's face,
Right.
It's
you
not
know,
blatant.
yeah, then it's how you do it.
Personally, as a vendor at that event, we've only asked for nonprofits to do that. I would probably be willing to bring additional cups for people that, you know, didn't, so that it wouldn't be sticking in somebody's face.
Yeah, I don't know, are you going to run, and I'm asking this because you guys might have a better feel for this, are we going to get some blowback from some of the local establishments who do sell alcoholic beverages that...
We have to consider a lot of, not only those, that side of it, going to get blowback from the churches.
I don't really want to talk about it. I mean, really, I don't want to make a big deal out of this thing. If adults want to do that, I'm not encouraging it, but if people...
No, I don't want to, the
I think
motorcycle,
about trash cans.
if a big deal is made about it, then the next thing you know,
I come
Then it's
uptown
gonna
during the
become a rule.
motorcycle fest, and there were several adults walking around drinking beer,
Oh, yeah,
and it was not a problem.
right. They've done that. That's kind of
Right.
why they like it.
Craig, we had, 2 police officers in the courthouse at
Correct.
the last one to just to monitor the halls because...
That was required.
Yep, that was
by the
required.
City, or county
County.
commissioners and county council.
But if we're going to allow people to bring alcohol, whatever, do you think it would be good to have yet another officer out on the street somewhere?
Like I said last time, we had the fire department there. I mean, I don't want to take up we got a pretty good sized area for all the police. If we would have had any kind of a disruption, I mean, we were, 40, 50 feet away from 2 police officers. And radios. I mean, I had talked to Jeremy Tharp that evening, and that's how we get hold of Greg. So if you're...
What's your feelings, Greg?
Well, to be quite honest, I always look at safety, so even if you have somebody with, say, an unruly person or a drunk person or something like that, there's safety in numbers, so I would say having an extra one down on the street.
Okay.
I hate to pull the people out of the courthouse, and then the courthouse isn't secure. Something happens in there, I mean, you got an old door on an auditor's room or something or other, and somebody goes breaking in there, then because we pull them out.
We can put porta pots out too.
And then just block the courthouse, and then you don't have to go to the courthouse.
What's your thinking, Melissa?
We will with the courthouse restrooms simply because of cost. It's cheaper to do that.
There's some ladies who don't
nicer.
like porta
Porta
potties.
pots, they're not, yeah.
I'm just saying that.
Well, it depends on the porta pots. I was just in one that was air conditioned.
Huh?
I don't think this is something we want to tackle.
Elaborate, go ahead.
If it's a city event, and we say, yes, you can have alcohol downtown, I just think it's going to turn into a total mess.
It could.
It could turn into something we don't want to deal with. If we start allowing it for our Thursday night concert events, then every other group's going to be allowed to ask and receive the same consideration. And
Right now, if people want to go listen to a band, they go to Vinnie's and they pay drink by drink and maybe pay a cover charge and they listen to a band. And it's controlled, it's inside Vinnie's and they're responsible. But if we put it outside, then we're inviting...
Go somewhere else and not to our Thursday night concert. Now, not that we know that everybody's not, I mean, if you have a fellow cup, I don't know what's in it, and I don't want to come ask you. But if we want to continue to have these concerts on Thursdays and then be family-friendly to an extent and calm to an extent, then I don't think we can say, bring your alcohol.
I don't think we
You
have.
need to.
That's not what we're
No.
willing to do.
I don't think you need to. I think the thing comes into play if you want to permit it and it functions properly, then permit it. But don't say bring it, if you know what I mean. I'm saying if you got police out there,
But what she's saying is if you're going to allow it for this event, everybody's going to want it for every event. So you're better off just leaving it go, and if people are there
Is
drinking,
there
you
like a
can't.
don't ask, don't tell?
That's
Right.
what I'm thinking.
Or
Greg's got a comment.
somebody was asking us on Thursday night, you know, because we have an open container. And there's no way I'm going to say yes, even if I know that their cup's full of alcohol. I'm not going to put myself in that position. Like,
Well, I would agree with
it's not worth
that.
it.
I would agree with that. Your response should not have been yes.
No.
Greg.
Only as a responsible body, I think, regardless of what everything's going on here, the question's already been brought up. If it can be brought up here, it's going to be brought up by the public, and you're going to have to address it. It's not going to go away. It's not going to say, well, yeah, maybe you can, yeah, maybe you can't, because they're going to come to me and they're going to be asking the same questions. So I think, just like Bill said, it's either you're going to allow or you're not, and then we deal with it that way. And like Melissa said, if it's in a red cup and, you know, I'm not going to go up and start inspecting everybody's cup. I mean, unless there's a reason to do that. There's like Tim knows, there's probable cause for everything. As long as people are reasonable, you know, I'm not one to say. So,
But yeah, if we have the rule that says you can't do it in the parks, but they're drinking beer, I'll about guarantee it, the men's softball diamond
well,
today.
that's something that you have to address.
They've been doing it for
Can't
40
do
years.
Not do the other.
Exactly.
And they've proven to not be a problem, so it's just...
Well, I think we've proven that we can have events downtown where you can have alcohol, and it's been handled.
Mhm.
It's permitted, it's in a tent, it has a perimeter, no problem.
Right. It's contained.
If we have Thursday night concerts and you can't deal with not having a drink at a Thursday night concert, then you don't need to be there. go somewhere else. I just think it's dangerous to say that, sure, you guys can now, but, you know, Greg's not going to smell your cup, so
And you're,
drink is on your own risk, but don't be a doofus about it, you know.
and you're saying if you can drink at the Thursday night concert series, then you can drink at anything that goes on downtown. You got the car show?
You can.
Well,
There's no
ordinance against it.
there's no ordinance against drinking on the city streets.
No, but so far we've been able to contain.
I understand.
But the difference is...
And you got your motorcycle group, they walk up and down the street. I mean, I stood out there and watched them.
Well, you're correct, but I've also talked with them also, so again, it's like talking to a few versus talking to everybody now, and then from everybody it goes into, now we have some problems, and now we have more problems. I think you're just going to have to address it one way or the other.
Well,
Yeah.
I think what Coach will start trying to point out is that I think he feels that you'd get a better attendance if alcohol was permitted. Is that fair?
I don't want to change any rules.
No.
I don't want to make a stink out of this thing. If
No,
somebody
but I'm
is
saying-
responsible and an adult,
Yeah.
they bring a small cooler, I'm not going to go inspect them, I'm not going to ask any questions.
Well, I don't know.
And I'm wondering, I mean, really the only time that they would get in trouble is if they were unruly.
I mean,
Well, that's
you've
for
got a paradox.
making-
You know, it's
making
not
a mess.
illegal to drink.
No.
You know, but on the same respect, drinking to excess can cause problems.
Oh, sure.
So it's currently
We're
not
talking
illegal
about
to
2-hour
drink on a
shows.
city street.
No.
Well,
We don't have an ordinance against this.
You can't drive on them.
no, we don't have an ordinance against
You
that.
can't walk on them. You can't. You can't drive on a city street when drinking.
You know, there's, in the past, it's been treated as a public nuisance, it's been, you know, people have been arrested for public intoxication.
Right.
If they're
So,
intoxicated, they
but
should be.
typically, it's when somebody is loud and obnoxious and causing a ruckus. That's typically when it happens.
I don't see why you can't just, for this, because you just had a great turnout at this Bulldogs. I wasn't able to be there. People apparently brought a little cooler and were drinking. I think simply adding another officer to the street, if that's possible, if there's enough manpower, have them in the courthouse and one on the street.
That's an additional cost to whatever organization is going to be putting on the event.
If they want that,
I don't think it's a good idea for the administration to okay drinking at downtown functions.
And promoted.
I know you don't want to change any rules, but this is being recorded, this is public record, and if we say that in this meeting that we're okay with it, then we are supporting it. And I don't think that this body should support drinking at city functions. Not if they're supposedly family-friendly functions. Now, if it's happening, like it did last week, I don't have a problem with it, as long as they're being respectful and, you know, they're not, like I said, they're not breaking any rules, but I don't think we need to endorse it.
Okay.
That's my opinion. Does that make sense?
Let the law
Great.
be- Let the law be the law.
Let the law be the law. Now, Greg, and then I'll go on.
Two things. Number one, last weekend, we were up at Jefferson Point, and they also had a concert up there. There is drinking allowed, but just like the Decatur, you're not allowed to go out in a certain area. And they also had security there. That being said, I still think, and it's my opinion only, that you should say no, and then deal with it as you find it, and start low and see how that goes and work upward. And if the thing was, you know, change or don't change, you can always change your mind. But that's just my opinion.
Now, this whole conversation started with us talking about the depot.
Yeah. No, you're correct.
And then from the depot to the parks, and from the parks to this. So back to the depot. I think that if it's if we kept it under the city, but managed by the parks, then it's not a park, right?
Right?
So there's your way around that one.
Well, again, I don't know that we have to go around if we would, okay, I'm not suggesting, I like it being part of the city, but there also can be an ordinance to clear, like Riverside, that you could serve alcoholic beverages, or you could change the ordinance, correct?
The ordinance could, but the park don't. If it's a park facility, the park board would still have to approve it as well.
Yeah. Well,
We could change our ordinance that no longer bans it, but they still have to permit it.
correct.
I'd rather see that come from the park board to us rather than from us to the park board.
Right.
They've been appointed to manage the parks, let them manage the parks. If they want to bring it to us, so be it. But I don't think we need to make that change ourselves. I do think that running the depot should be a little more costly than running the Legion Park Pavilion, for example. You know, you got a lot more, it's inside, we'll have heat, does it have air? Heat and air, so I mean, it's a lot more, so what requirements we would want for running a facility like that, I think a whole different, while we have a draft for how we do park rentals, I think it would be a separate contract of sort for the depot. Yeah.
Just one thing for Jeremy and the park board, if you're going to use this as a reception hall facility, get with Tim Bauman and make sure that we have a capacity, allowable capacity on the building for rental, so that we don't get into a code issue. Roger and Tim could make sure that they do the measurements, and you know, you could have more if you don't have fixed tables and chairs, but Tim will have to fix.
Les, can you just go ahead and have Tim take care of that? Let us know.
Put something else on his list, sorry.
Yeah. So, where do we go? Who would want to write up the a contract and how much we charge and what the rules would be, cleaning up?
That's already being done.
Is it for the depot?
By the depot ladies.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Well, yeah, I think they're doing it, and then Tim will review,
They
right?
with the contract and rules, and that will be presented to...
Do they have a price in mind then also?
They have pricing based on by hourly, half a day, full day, what are you doing, are you bringing food? They're working on it.
So it sounds like Cam should have talked to his mom before he sent the email.
I think they're just asking,
Present it to you, and you guys
Do
approve
they
it.
need to come to us? They need to go to the park board. I think that's their
Well, you guys
question.
are going to be...
It's not a park, you better
go to the city.
Better go to the
So
city.
it comes right here.
Yeah. Okay, with that, now that I know that, Melissa, I think
Tim's idea of that's going to have some personal liability on that with their homeowners.
Yeah, that's one of the things that they should require, one of the requirements.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So the city's going to own it and the park board's going
If you want to
Yeah, we
put
pay
it
the
on
city
a vet
park to
form,
manage.
just let, no, if it is a rental, it'll have to, never mind.
okay, enough discussion on that tonight. We'll come back to that after the depot ladies come to us. And lastly, while Jeremy's still up here, last Tuesday, week ago today, Jeremy, Melissa, and I, along with a couple of city residents, business owner, some people from NERC, made our presentation at NDOT in regard to 5 Points and modifying that intersection. Our presentation, I think, went well. Jeremy has been involved in these before and said that, you know, when they don't ask you a lot of questions afterwards, they seem to get it. And they only had asked a couple questions, and they were both easy to answer. But then lastly, while NDOT projects have always been an 80-20 split, with NDOT picking up 80%, and if this being could be upwards of a $3 million project, and that leaving the city with a $600,000 bill. The one question that they did ask, and we'd kind of been tipped off that they were going to ask this question, although they added to it, they said the application for this project was for construction. Well, construction is one line item in the whole process. You have the right-of-way acquisitions, in other words, buying out and moving that business that's down there at 5 Points. You have all the utility movements, the inspections, what else is there, Jeremy? The
Preliminary engineering.
engineering, yeah.
Right-of-way,
Yeah.
environmental, relocation of gas
Utilities,
station,
yeah.
all the way down to construction inspection.
So the question was posed,
Construction.
the question was posed to me was, if we cover the construction, does the city still want to pursue this if you get the tab for the rest of it? And after a little stuttering and stammering, I just said, I can't really answer that because I don't even have a vote in this. I said, we are committed to this project. We've looked at it the last 2 years by way of our Stellar application, and now we're coming to NDOT this year on your call for a third year in a row. So we are committed to it. We want to do it. We want to get it done. If it means we have to pay 50% of it, it may take us longer, but we are committed to doing this. And I said, but I cannot stand here today and say yes, because that's up to council. That's not up to me. And they just said, that's basically the same answer we got from, because they were asking everyone who submitted a project the same question. And they said, that's pretty much the same answer we're getting up and down the line. So I thought it went well, though otherwise. Now we wait till, what, October or so and find something out. And as Jeremy said, it could be something where it's not really going to be that way. You know, maybe they'll want the city to pay parts of some of them or all of the engineering, but they'll pick up the rest. Or, as you said, do it in phases and whatever your so that's just kind of a report on that.
I think their goal is they just want to get a lot of projects out because there hasn't been a call for so long.
Yeah,
But
they want,
I don't, after seeing some of the numbers on some of these projects from the other communities, our number is actually kind of low compared to some of them. So
Yeah.
I don't know how these communities are going to come up with that kind of money.
yeah.
So,
Okay, did you have anything else?
letter from Aaron.
You want me to read it?
Sure. Matt,
Unfortunately, I'm sorry, what?
we need to make this on the record.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I have a letter here dated June 30th to Jeremy. It says, please accept this letter as my letter of resignation. I have enjoyed working for the city of Decatur over the past 3 years, but I've decided that my full-time job needs to be at home, taking care of my family. Thank you for the opportunity. Sincerely, Aaron Hackman, who's his administrative assistant down at the street garage, and we hate to see that because she's been a big asset.
She's been with us part-time for a few years, probably almost
Right.
3, and then she's been with me full-time for 6 months, almost to the day. So,
Yeah. So we need to make this a matter of record. Bill, would you like to make that a matter of record?
So moved.
A second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, the same. So there you go, Jeremy. I
I'm
guess you-
opposed.
I'm actually opposed, yeah.
So you have that position though, that it's proven that there was more than enough work for that position.
So now we just have to go through the process.
Mm-hmm.
She has been willing to stay on for a little bit to help with the transition. We may end up taking her off full-time status and giving her a little flexibility to go back home.
If she's willing to do
If
that
she's caught up for just a small period of time here.
until we find the right person.
I think what she's told me, and Jeremy, she's also told Jeremy, she's initiated so many nice, good projects for us, and I've showed the mayor a few of them, and I'm all for it, and she just really concerned that if she doesn't help train somebody to do those projects, that they'll get left behind, and all the work she's put into to do those projects, I don't think she wants to see them go.
Jeremy was telling me today, she's the kind of person that just finds things and gets them done. You know, he's not there to supervise everything she does. She sees something or has an idea, she just gets it done. So, we'll miss that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see many good applicants want that job.
Well, first thing would be posted internally, and then go from there. So, all right, thank you, Jeremy. Hey, Les, did you want to talk about your posting, or are we all clear on that?
Well,
No. I think I'd like to address that. That's one, I've got three things here.
Okay, Tim, take it away, because I'm
Okay.
done.
Les brought up
You got a copy.
question, you know, how does he proceed to fill the position, the vacancy that he has in the fire department? And, you know, in the case of other departments, exclusive of the fire and police departments, it's the ability to transfer from one department to another is much easier. The job requirements, the training involved is a little different. So if you read our manual, the manual says that there's a process that you go through to when you have a vacancy. And it says that in the event a vacancy exists, and notice that the position is to be conspicuously posted for a period of at least 3 days, not more than 10. And that is giving employees of the city the opportunity to apply for the position. Then if the applicants from within the city are deemed not to be qualified, then you go outside the city to fill the position. But there is another section in that same policy that says, in the event an elected official determines that the positions should be filled from outside, the elected official and/or department heads at their discretion may do so. So you don't have to go through the posting process if there's a determination made that it makes more sense to broaden the pool of applicants. So the question is, does the Board of Works feel that the mayor should make that determination, subject to Les's feelings about that as well? And if so, then you wouldn't go through the posting for that position. Now, if you want to keep it within the city, then in that situation, city employees, including volunteers, fire department volunteers, could apply internally because they are considered employees of the city. Okay? So it's a question of whether you want to go beyond city employees and broaden that to perhaps employees of other departments or not. So we just need clarification because Les needs to know which way to do it.
And it would certainly be my recommendation that we broaden the scope. And really simply because any city employee, we have several city employees that are already volunteers, so we're not excluding anybody from the process. It's just eliminating that 3 to 10 day posting, because with the PERF and the agility test and the aptitude test that everybody would be required, it would just make sense to take applications because they're still going to have the opportunity to apply regardless. And it all comes down to the Board of Works decision really anyway. So we could easily have a city employee that may fail the agility or fail the aptitude. They're not removed. If they're a volunteer, they're not removed from the force. They could remain a volunteer, so it doesn't jeopardize their volunteer status, even if they would fail a portion of the full-time hiring process, because we even use the same aptitude and agility, not exactly the same aptitude, the same agility for a volunteer. So, my recommendation would be to proceed taking applications in general and just accept the volunteers, our volunteers and city employees that wish to apply. They would all have the same consideration in the long run, would be my recommendation.
And I agree with that.
I do also.
Do we want to make this a matter of record one way?
What I would do is have the Board of Works motion and second authorizing you as the elected official to not go through the posting process, but just give notice that applications will be accepted from not only city employees, but
If there's any employee that would bring up an issue, we're just using section
4D.
4D, D,
D as in David.
4D as our
Page 23.
as our justification for that decision.
And that is for this particular time for the fire department.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Yep. Now, at the same time, Jeremy,
So do you want me to follow the same thing, or do you want me to follow the old way of doing it, the Lawrence position?
I knew that was coming. Well, I think when it comes to that, I mean, I have no reason to say, I mean, I think the fire department, police department's a little bit different than the scope of work that the rest of the city does. And let's say you do post it. Someone from within, male or female, either one, applies for it. Then you would interview them if they are qualified, but you don't think they're the proper candidate for one reason or another. You should have to take them. Then why wouldn't we want to post it?
I'm just asking the question
Yeah.
because he's not going to be without a person until September.
Yeah, you're going to be without a person in 2
Without
weeks.
a person here shortly. So that was my question. Because basically what this does is it speeds it up pretty close to the whole entire week or better on my end. That was just a question, so.
And then all these jobs are
You guys
unique.
can act out.
I just like to have a good crop of people that want a job. I'll go back to the one employee Jeremy has. It was advertised in the paper, and they left. They came from outside the city and brought a lot of skill set with them.
Yeah, we advertised for a sanitation collector and had how many applicants? Was
Oh, well, we've done it so many times, quite a few.
yeah,
70, 75.
fill us at over 100. Yeah. Bill, is that a Board of Works call for Jeremy's, or is that?
I think if Jeremy feels that he needs a
quicker.
larger scope and quicker. I think what you're doing here with 4D is kind of giving the opportunity for the department head to go
Open it up.
instead of just isolating it on city employees. So I would think if Jeremy didn't come in for that request, I think he can go the way he's doing it. I mean, for me. And I would
Is that
give...
my call or a?
Yeah, I think if Bill wants to make a motion to authorize both department heads to, to not utilize the posting process under 4A and proceed under 4D, then you as the mayor can direct them to do so.
And I'll make that motion.
And I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, the same. Jeremy, go ahead. But I do want to make it clear that this isn't something that will always be the case. I'm not going to comment. I'll comment privately, but not right now, because like I said, I know there's going to be a position where someone's retiring later on this year, and there are people within that particular department that's going to want to look at that position, and I think in that case, we will want to post it. I mean, it's not something that we're going to do all the time, but tonight, under both instances, I think we're good to go. So, all right. Tim, what else?
Okay, we received the signed contract from Paul Froat, Paul and Susie Froat, regarding the sewing building down here on Monroe Street. So it's subject to, I think tentatively you approved it, but we'll make this a matter of record, have it approved by the Board of Works and also council. So we'll make a matter of record.
So moved.
Second?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same.
Phyllis, I'm going to give these to you, and then you can do the same thing in the council. And then, one other thing that I'll bring up, Roger's has received some applications for, from utilities for use of right-of-ways or wanting to put up utility structures within the city. And, you know, the question is, do they have a right to use our right-of-ways, our street right-of-ways? And I did some research on that. There is a statute that says that they do have the right to do it. We can still provide some reasonable, or include some reasonable provisions for the use. But if they don't like it and they think it's intrusive to their business, they can file a complaint with the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, and then we have to go defend our ordinance there. And if they find, if the commission finds it to be unreasonable, then they can throw out the ordinance. So this has come up in the context of some fiber optics, and also a company is talking about coming in and putting up some pretty high poles strategically placed within the community that will provide Wi-Fi service. But the poles are pretty sizable. And they're talking about, at least in one instance, as I recall, locating it in a residential neighborhood. So, you know, we don't have any, I went through our ordinance, I don't see anything in there that restricts heights of poles.
A single wood pole, but like 70 feet up.
It has to be a certain height in order for the signal to transmit. So,
We have it for towers.
we have provisions for towers,
But this
Cell
would not
towers.
be considered a tower.
Any city street.
and
Say it was in the neighborhood that, to their homeowners association.
there might
If
be
you want to put one in the middle of a
some,
golf course, or the middle,
Well, they have to come before the planning commission.
Well,
If it's not there, they...
They have already,
they claim
they've already
they're
been here and
a
showed us
utility.
where they want to put them. And in all honesty, two of them we don't have a problem with, although one of those two that we don't have a problem with, they'll never get passed, because there's all kinds of other gas lines and other utilities there that
Encroaching probably where Buckeye Pipeline's at, so we'll just let them fight that
Yeah.
out of them.
but the other two
My
are
main
both,
concern with a lot of this stuff is this is probably the fourth fiber optic company that's come in and is starting to bury stuff. They want to do burial and overhead stuff, but I know how congested it is when these guys try to repair utilities. You know, now that when they dig, they run into all kind of stuff for locates, and I'm just worried about, I don't know if these fiber optics are going to be crisscrossing each other or running down the same easement. You know, we're going to have two or three in the same easement. I don't know. I don't know what to do with those.
is that why certain cities are going to, like, Angola is city-wide Wi-Fi? I don't know how they accomplish that.
Or with them towers
yeah,
and the poles.
but
Yeah.
he's saying, well, yeah, our city would be Wi-Fi also. It wouldn't be free, but it would be It would be there.
It'd be accessible.
It would be accessible.
What this company does is, it simply puts up the infrastructure and then rents it out to the providers.
And it can have several providers,
Oh, yeah.
not just one, but several.
We're
On
gonna
the towers.
meet, we're gonna meet again with that guy from Mobilite. I mean, I'll try and set up a date with him, but this other Spectrum that came in, we've got Mobilite, Spectrum,
CFS.
and Embark carried some, and we've got like 4 that's gonna be in the ground already. And they keep expanding their, range. I don't know how, our easements aren't all that big, and if they are approved utility, hey, I don't know, if like Tim said, I don't know if we'd keep them out of there, but...
I don't like the way the statute is set up,
Yeah, I don't know how to deal with that, or...
but anyway, just give that some thought, because if you want to restrict or try to restrict what is a permissible, then we probably need to get something in place, and we may want to take a look at what other communities have done, just to see if they've gone through a challenge and whether it survived or not, because there's no sense in us passing something that's already been challenged and it's gotten thrown out.
They always come in and say they're gonna be below utilities, they're gonna bore deep. How the hell do you know? You get drilling, you don't know what they're doing or where they're putting it.
Unless somebody's out there watching them.
Yeah, and then still, you can tell unless you're there reading the machine. I don't know. That's all I was concerned about, getting way too much traffic in our utilities.
Yeah, it's becoming a problem.
Yeah, so, okay.
Do you have anything else?
That's for Port Works.
Well, before we adjourn, and we go to the council meeting, at the council meeting, we're going to discuss the water rates. So before we adjourn, does anyone have any question they would want to ask Dan now, or you're all good to go to the council meeting? Okay. Bill, do I have a motion to adjourn the Board of Works meeting?
So moved.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. We're adjourned.